Deep Shot Podcast, Season 5, Episode 7. Matthew Stafford. I'm saving one for you.
I mean, you already know I'm going. Clowney, baby.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure you said it. Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm trying to think.
Leonard
I was going to go
Fournette.
Stafford and Clowney.
Yeah, Leonard Fournette was. I was thinking of. I tried to think of like NFL 7s today. I mean, I can't even think of one.
There's
honestly,
not really a whole lot of, not off the top of my head, like a bunch of like great number 7s in the NFL.
The NFL, yeah, like Trayvon Diggs, the only one I remember, and he's not even good anymore. But anyway, welcome to another episode of the Deep Shot Podcast. It is a 2-man show tonight. Our boy Caleb, week 1 in the high school football ranks got to him. They got the dub, but, you know, not everyone gets out of the week healthy. He's resting up. He'll be back in a couple of days. So we're holding down the fort for him. Packed show tonight. A lot of things have happened since we last talked last week. Multiple quarterbacks at SEC schools have been announced as the starters. There's been drama in the NFL players coming back to college stuff that we literally just talked about, and then it seems like the next day all of it started happening. We've got the NFC East preview we're talking about today. We've got some trivia, some more fun stuff, some NFL hot takes that you, the fans, gave us on Instagram. So thank you for being here. Make sure you guys follow on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. We really appreciate it because it's been a fun off season, Jonathan, but this is now, it's time. This is week 0. We are in the middle of week 0.
Yeah, I did wake up a little under the weather this morning, let's just call it. But boy, I got 30 minutes into my day, got a little coffee in me. I was like, football is this weekend, dude. And it starts on, Thursday night with the FCS games? Probably tune in for a bunch of those, honestly, just to throw a game on there, just to get back into the action.
The FBS on Saturday with North Carolina and TCU. We got an ACC matchup
in Dublin.
North Carolina State and Virginia, huh?
North Carolina TCU in Dublin.
Yep. Another, what do they call that? There's a certain name for it. It's
the Aer Lingus Classic.
Yep. There you go. You called it. Memphis UNLV. That'll be a great nightcap. Some games in between. Obviously, Hawaii going to Stanford. I think USC's playing San Jose State. And then, in sleeper game, people are not thinking about that New Mexico State game against Florida State.
I was looking at the spread for that, and I was like, might have to hammer on New Mexico State. It's about 31 right now. I'm like, ooh, that's a little too many for a Mike Norvell kind of squad that you just have no idea what they're going to be going into this year. Yeah, I'm excited. That nightcap game, Memphis UNLV, boy, I am excited to see what UNLV is. As you guys know, I had them in my my playoff projection, so I hope the boys get off to a good start. But yeah, super excited for this weekend. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And look, next episode, we're going to talk more about the games, kind of preview a couple of them. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but we just had to make sure everybody knew that we're aware it's week 0, okay? And from here on out, we will be talking. Will be the last episode of the season where we will not have a game to talk about. So we're done with talking season. It's all about what happens on the field from now on.
Thank you, Lord. I mean, it's always a tough time, the off season. I love the countdown, like the 120 days till kickoff, and it's just the sickos like you and I who are always liking and engaging with that stuff. But yeah, couldn't be more excited. Let's freaking go.
All right. Well, to back it back up, because we still have to wait till Saturday, or at least to our next episode to talk about the games. Last episode, I brought this up at the end of the show that we were reaching a point where the NFL, there's going to be NFL players that were going to be coming back to play in college football. And it is officially started. And who other than Lane Kiffin to be at the forefront of it? Now, the other day, it was Daquan Wright, tight end for Ole Miss last year, obviously played under Lane Kiffin, was on the Browns, played in a preseason game, and he's officially the first person that's been committed. He committed to LSU, and he clears the waivers with the Browns. He'll be going to LSU. It's already pretty much written in stone. All right. Then, as of sometime today, they had another one, Xavier Harris, that got announced. He was on the Saints. Now, I didn't look too much at Xavier Harris because it's pretty new, but Daquan Wright, he played for the Browns in the preseason, but he was also on the Eagles at one point during this offseason. I think he got invited to Eagles minicamp. So he's actually been a 2-time pro.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I mentioned this as well in the last episode. I think if once you sign the dotted line for either a 10-day or just a professional tryout or something with a professional team, I feel like your amateur status and collegiate status and eligibility, I think, should run up. I don't understand. I mean, I get why this is happening because of one loose judge somewhere in Colorado or whatever. It's and now the hell is breaking loose. But I will say, I think I mean, Lane Kiffin's going to get a bunch of the headlines, but there's a few more squads that are doing this as well. Indiana's doing it. Ohio State. Ryan Day came out with a quote saying basically like, we'd be stupid not to look into it. At least give it a go. So it's gonna continue to happen. And I mean, I feel like every year in college football now, we're just gonna have some made up rules about eligibility. So eventually maybe Johnny Manziel can get back in here. Maybe Joe Burrow if he wants to come down and play a little bit softer, I guess, brand of football, maybe a little bit less tougher, a little bit less tough on the joints and his injury proneness. But all kidding aside, this is so dumb. I'm not a fan of it. I don't think you are either, Gary. Are you?
No, I mean I don't think many people are. I'll be honest, maybe except for if you're an LSU fan right now. But I think it's also to stay on a joke real quick. I did see one. I saw a graphic earlier today. It was like Justin Fields going to Texas Tech,
Dude. That was cracking
and
me
that
up.
one was funny. It was like 5 different NFL teams, and then Texas Tech Red Raiders. But I did listen to Lane Kiffin's press conference, or at least like a clip of what he said when asked about it. And I'm not going to say oh, okay, now I'm cool with everything now. But I guess it made a little bit more sense. And the way he said it was like, look, these guys were supposed to be given another year of eligibility in December. And now, because they didn't get told so they basically were already supposed to have this, and now they're just coming back to decide they want to use it, which I guess in that sense makes sense. But it's also like, again, who other than Lane Kiffin to come over here and just be the punching bag for it? And he also, and like you said with Ryan Day, he said the same thing, like, well, either we can be a part of it or someone else is going to be a part of it, and we're going to lose to these guys. So,
yeah,
coaches seem like they're just, it seems like the same thing with like a 2014 playoff. The coaches are like, well, whatever makes my team better and helps my team, I'm doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a lot of chatter and talk about how NIL and, paying players was going to bring a whole lot of just different things that nobody really saw coming out of left field. And this is one of them. Unfortunately, I do understand where Lane Kiffin's coming from. I hadn't seen that before you told me about it. And it's a good way to think about it. At the same time, I think it's a very it's almost like a selfish kind of thing. And especially in today's culture, you're going to get me on a tangent here, Gary, but I think it's more like, what's best for me? What can I do to make the most amount of money? And that's understandable. I totally get that. But at the same time, dude, if you've, started 4 years in college, like South Carolina, they were talking about bringing DQ Smith back. He's apparently entered the transfer portal. He was a 4-year starter there, started 48 games. Like, dude, let move on. I understand maybe the technicality of the timing when the rule or the injunction or whatever it was came in, but at the same time, it's like, dude, just move on with your life. Like, we can't have 24, 25, 26-year-olds playing college football. I get it. The COVID year, that's fine. And I do like the 5 to play 5 season, 5 years to play 5 seasons rule as well. But if you miss the deadline, then you miss the deadline. I mean, that's how I kind of feel about it. Just like, there should have been a wide sweeping rule of, hey, this is if you were not in the transfer portal at this time, if your name was draft eligible and whatnot, I think it should have just let go. Not because one person says like, this is how it needs to be. I'm not a fan of it, but I understand why coaches and teams and programs would try to take advantage at least.
We'll see if it changes. It's just funny because you're like, well, I maybe didn't look into it as much, but it's like, I thought there was only one transfer portal window. Now we've got a transfer portal window like a week before the season starts. That's just also, yeah. I get maybe like these guys going to LSU to play with their coach, or, a kid like that South Carolina kid, maybe if he wanted to go back to South Carolina and keep playing, like I can understand that. But imagine hitting the transfer portal. Like, who another team name I keep seeing everywhere is Thomas Castellanos. That guy's trying to get somewhere so bad. And I'm like, yeah, how do you go somewhere you haven't been all off season? You haven't trained all off season with any team. You haven't gone through the summer workouts, the camps, all that, the team bonding stuff. And you're supposed to show up.
You don't know the system either. You're going to come in there and learn the playbook within a week. We got games this weekend.
Yeah, I know. And then now all of a sudden you're just going to come in there and like be a contributor to the team. I mean, that just seems a little crazy. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. I mean, obviously those guys are going to go play for LSU, and I'm sure it'll keep happening. But hopefully the state of Colorado and their judges fix it because they're the ones that
One
made it.
last thing on this that I did want to mention. It's not like I feel like we're not going to be discussing like unless like one of these guys wins the Heisman or something ridiculous like that. Like I feel like we're not really going to be discussing it when the games are going and it's week 5 and teams are either on the ropes already or teams are looking hot and better than we thought. We're not going to be really discussing all this. So
Yeah,
I'm just excited to talk about the games.
Yeah. No, it's always going to be a joke, though. I mean, it was like last year with Indiana. They were always like, oh, this team just, they're all 24, 25, whatever. If LSU starts making a run, it will be dumped in their face about how many NFL players they have on their team and they're cheating. So that will be funny to see, and we'll remember this conversation. Next thing I wanted to talk about, multiple starters in the SEC have been decided. Alabama was the first one on Saturday. They announced with Keelan Russell, and then today we had Aaron Follow at Florida get announced, and Faison Brandon at Tennessee get announced as a starter as well. Just to name a couple other ones that I just saw on the On3 Instagram today. Arkansas announced KJ Jackson. USF announced Michael Van Buren, former LSU quarterback. Northwestern announced Aiden Childs. Nebraska announced, blank on his name.
Anthony
Calandria. Anthony
Yep.
Calandria. So a bunch of names, but these three were like, in terms of the battles that were talked about, especially I think in Alabama and Tennessee's cases, these were like some pretty high talked about or high publicity quarterback battles. And so Keelan Russell wins the job at Alabama. I want to bring that up first. He obviously wins it over Austin Mack. Now, I don't know if you knew this. Keelan Russell is the highest rated quarterback in Bama history in terms of recruiting signings. Did you know that?
I did not. I knew he was I think he was the number 1 overall player in his class, was he not? If I'm not mistaken on that, then that makes sense.
I don't know. I don't know about that for a fact, but I know he is the highest rated signing they've ever had in terms of quarterback. That makes sense.
I would think like Bryce Young or somebody might be up there, but I could see that for sure.
He is now the starting quarterback at Alabama. It seemed like in terms of the fan base, Nick Rogers, anybody else you talked to who's an Alabama fan, they told you they wanted Keelan Russell. It was going to be Keelan Russell. And it becomes Keelan Russell. I read about it a little bit. They asked the board like how they decided. And I thought it was interesting. He said that he did it with and I don't know if a lot of coaches do this, but he basically put both of them in the same room and told them together who's going to be the starting quarterback. So I thought that's just like an interesting little way to do it because, imagine you're in the room with the guy that you beat and you're trying to be humble about it. You're not trying to give like a fist pump or anything. You're trying to be chill about it. And the other guy's just deflated, especially in Austin Mack's situation. Austin Mack has been with Kalen DeBoer since he was at Washington. So he's been around with Kalen DeBoer this is his 4th year. And he just found out he's not going to be the starting quarterback, whether he knew it or not. But Keelan Russell, obviously a dual threat guy. Seems like that was a key factor in what they want to kind of be able to do at Alabama.
Okay. Yeah. I think, from Alabama's standpoint, this is a trying to raise the ceiling type of play rather than let's keep it where the floor is at. I actually think Austin Mack played well sparingly. Like I know Indiana was kind of, garbage time, but he's played a few times, had a few starts over the years with Kalen DeBoer. That really does suck for the guy. You're there with that coach for 4 years, and you're like, okay, this is my time to shine. Gonna have a great year. Gonna get drafted, first 3 rounds or something like that. And now all those plans have kind of pushed to the wayside. Now you're just backing up this obviously super talented kid. I like it only from the standpoint of what I've seen from Austin Mack that I like. So if the coaches started a guy that has only been there for a year over a guy that's been in the system for 4 years. That tells me the coaching staff has a lot of confidence, a lot of belief in him. I think it's also kind of a long-term season play. You kind of want him to get more and more reps. So if you think he's going to be the guy late in the season, you might as well start him out sooner rather than later to take his licks earlier on if Bama's going to make a run. So yeah, I like it. It remains to be seen. We're going to have to see him on the grass, but I like it for now. C+.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, it did seem, I felt like, to go back to what I said a minute ago, it seemed like all the fans wanted him to be the quarterback. It seemed like everybody that, wasn't in the program or anybody you talked to, it was going to be Keelan Russell. So that's why my one question was is this a booster call? Did Kalen DeBoer really have a choice here?
I feel like, yeah, no, I didn't really think about that, to be honest with you. And then you just made me think about it. It's like that it could be. Maybe it's more of hey, the fan base is kind of hungry for this guy. If I put out Mac out there and I lose to South Carolina or I lose to Florida State, I might be screwed or I might be in some hot water, right? So I think by starting Russell and letting him kind of earn his licks, like, maybe they end up losing one game or something like that to those two teams. Probably not, but at least, the fan base gets what they want in this case.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, again, he's been highly touted. Over in Knoxville, Faison Brandon won the competition over there over George McIntyre. Faison Brandon, a true freshman in his true first year in the program, won it over George McIntyre, who's a sophomore, which I was looking at the number. So obviously I say Keelan Russell is the highest rated in Tennessee. Keelan Russell is the highest rated quarterback at Bama ever in terms of recruiting ranking. Faison Brandon was number 2 for Tennessee, apparently about 0.01 points behind Nico Amalivia. So some high stature for this guy over in Knoxville. George McIntyre, kind of crazy. Like when I'm not going to say I knew their intangibles before I started looking into it, but Faison Brandon, 6'4", big body. George McIntyre, 6'6". And so these guys obviously are kind of maybe the same gunslinger mentality. Faison Brandon probably just maybe has a little bit more in terms of a ceiling, I'm guessing. But Josh Heupel obviously is a quarterback guy. He's handled quarterbacks really well over his time at Tennessee. So he makes this call. Again, I feel like this was what the Tennessee fan base wanted. It seemed like in terms of if we were going back to, May or April, whenever these quarterback competitions were going on, maybe even before the spring games were happening, if you would have been like, all right, odds down, who's winning the Alabama or Tennessee starting quarterback jobs, it seemed like these guys were, maybe not heavy favorites, but slight favorites. So Faison Brandon becomes that guy at Tennessee. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a very similar situation to the Bama QB battle. I think it's all about, where do we think we're going to be at the end of the year, and who's going to be the guy that gets us there. And it's if the coaching staff believes in him, then I think it's the right choice. I also, like you mentioned earlier, first year quarterbacks under Josh Heupel's system as a starter, like, say what you want about Josh Heupel in general, but I feel like he knows how to coach a QB and an offense. Like he doesn't mess around when it comes to that. I mean, Hendon Hooker, even Joe Milton wasn't like the worst college QB of all time. Joey Aguilar, even Nico Amalivia too. He wasn't that bad. Like that was his first year starting, and he obviously there was talent there. I like it. I think he's going to be pretty good. I don't know. He'll probably make a little bit more licks and have a lot more mistakes than Keelan Russell, but maybe he won't. Maybe he'll be better. Who knows? But I think it's also not as much of a shocker because I remember when George McIntyre was coming in, he was still a pretty highly recruited quarterback. I think it was like a high 4-star. I don't think he was quite a 5-star guy, but there was a lot of buzz when he came into the building. So for this guy to come in as a true freshman, I think he was early enrollee as well, so that probably helped him a lot. But for him to come in and win the job as a true freshman, I don't know if it says more about what the talent in the QB room was or if this guy's just a really, really phenomenal player. But I'm going to wait to see him on the grass. So the same thing with Keelan Russell before I make any final decisions. I think he'll be fairly good by the time the season gets done.
Yeah, and again, I can't emphasize enough that I do trust Josh Heupel when it comes to what he does with those quarterbacks. So I think it'll end up being the right call there. And then down in Gainesville, Aaron Philo, he wins the starting quarterback. This is probably the least surprising or least shocking of them all. Obviously, he comes down with Buster Faulkner, the OC from Georgia Tech. He comes down there with him. I know he's a former Gatorade player. I think most passing yards in high school football history in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. He wins over Tramel Jones, who was there last year. Look, John Sumrall went out in different situations with DeBoer and Heupel. DeBoer and Heupel have been there for a couple years. They had both their quarterbacks. Those were guys they recruited. In terms of Aaron Philo, this is the guy that John Sumrall went out and seeked and wanted in terms of like what he wanted to be the starting quarterback back in January when he took the head coaching job at Florida. So this one wasn't very surprising at all.
Yeah, no, I think this is more of like go with what you know. Obviously, with John Sumrall coming in there as the new head coach and then Buster Faulkner coming in there as the new OC, the guy who he was battling, Tramel Jones, apparently, from at least the previous coaching staff, which say what you want about Billy Napier and them boys, but they at least, saw some potential in him. And obviously the new coaching staff at Florida saw enough potential in him to keep him around. I'm sure he had some portal options he could have gone to, but decided to stick around and ultimately lose out on the starting job. But SEC is a tough league, man. You're gonna play 9 games this year in this league, and I think Aaron Philo's game into the way Buster Faulkner likes to call plays, he's going to be running the football a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see Tramel Jones, have some different packages and some PT opportunities here and there. Who knows? Maybe even, has to take over the reins if Philo gets hurt or, he's just not playing very well. So from the scuttlebutt that I heard on Twitter and the podcast that I listened to is it was a pretty tight battle. And I think they just went over what they kind of knew rather than what they didn't know. So I think he's going to be okay. I can't really sit here and tell you that I thought he was the best quarterback at Georgia Tech when I saw him get in, but then again, he wasn't really in that, starter, put all this pressure on you type of role. So we'll see.
Yep. I mean, he's a third year. I think this is his third year in college. So he's been around the block, obviously sat behind Haynes King for a while. So he knows about the grit, the stuff. So we'll find out. So yeah, some quarterback competitions that happened over there in the SEC. But I think there's one quarterback battle that we need to bring up. And I'm sure you saw this. I mean, this was probably the biggest announcement of the day. Rutgers announced their starting quarterback today. Dylan Long-Aaron.
I did. That was the only reason I know about this. Well, first of all, he grew up in Snellville, so shout out Snellville, a few miles away from where we're at, right, Gary? But he was also committed to South Carolina at one point, and so I know this kid fairly well. Or maybe he wasn't committed, but he was in the run. It was like Alabama and Carolina were his top two, and eventually went to Alabama where he was going to get no playing time, obviously. So I don't know why you did that. But then obviously everything happened with Saban, and now he's been bouncing around for a little while. But I couldn't tell you if this guy's going to be good or not. Probably not, because it's Rutgers. So, I mean, I wish him well. But what do you think about it?
Yeah, no, this is obviously, again, probably the biggest announcement of the day that Rutgers has found their starting quarterback. Yeah, he was at Bama, and then he was at Boston College.
That's right.
Yep. And he came over and won the starting quarterback job against a guy named AJ Suris. So AJ had a couple snaps last year, was 4 for 9. So obviously the less than 50% completion percentage maybe put him down in the race. But Dylan Long-Aaron, the starting quarterback at Rutgers, obviously now a huge Big Ten favorite with this decision. So I wanted to make sure we brought that one up as well.
Oh, everybody's going to be looking for Rutgers this year. I promise you that much. Better watch out.
Yeah, Greg Schiano. I mean, an elite coach with now an elite quarterback starting at the helm. So I wanted to make sure we talked about that. Obviously, had to say that the best for last. Okay, we're going to talk about the NFC East. We're going to move to the NFL. We're going to talk about the NFC East preview. But the other day, I decided to put out a post on Instagram where I asked the NFL fan base, give me your hottest NFL take that anybody, I think my exact words were, give me the hottest NFL take anyone's heard in 2026. So I've got a good amount here. There was actually over 500 comments, and I think it's still going. So I appreciate everybody that decided to comment on that. But Jonathan, I'm just going to pull some of these up for you, and I just want you to give me, I don't know what your hot take meter looks like. Is it 1 to 5, 1 to 10, whatever you want, maybe hot or not? Hot, mild, cold.
Let's go 1 to 5. We'll go 1 to 5, and we'll just do a rapid fire.
Okay, 1 to 5, 5 being the hottest.
Yeah, hottest take you can imagine, and 1 just cold as hell.
Okay, all right, here we go. All right, I've got 11 of them. Okay, so
all right,
here we go. The first one, and we'll both go. I'll give it 1 to 5 too. Yeah. Here we go. Drake May, not even a top 32 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously a 5. I mean, you did ask for the hottest takes of the NFL season, and I think you got one right here.
I mean, I don't know what that liked by the author is. I mean, somebody else must have been on the account. That was obviously not me that would like that comment. I mean, but I agree. I would probably give that a 4. Obviously I said he's going to regress a little bit. So, but it's hard to be number 33 if you're a starting quarterback. So, unless
he gets hurt.
Unless he gets hurt, but let's say he plays the whole season. I mean, it's hard for him to be not at least 32. So I'm going to put that at a 4, but he could get hurt. So that's the only reason.
If that's a 4, I'm excited to see what's a 5 in your book.
All right. Next one. Oreo thin. Now, let me preference this one. It says Rams get upset in the playoffs. Now, what do you think it is they're going to get upset about?
I think probably the turf. It's like we were talking about the other day. They're going to get upset about the turf, or maybe a pass interference call that doesn't go their way. That could be it.
Okay, I'm putting that as a 3 then, because that could.
Okay, I think I'm going somewhere in there too. Yeah, I'll go 2.5.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I like where we're at there. Rams get upset in the playoffs. Obviously, he's talking about them losing to whatever, because he's probably going to assume they're a 1 seed in the playoffs, losing to a 6 or 7. And obviously, everybody thinks the Rams are winning the Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I guess I put that as a 3 just because if we're talking realistically, they are probably the Super Bowl favorites and everything like that. But it's not that unrealistic for a team to get hot at the right time in the NFL and get it. Maybe the Rams, have lost, God forbid, Myles Garrett or, Matthew Stafford, Puka, maybe they're a little injured. But, at the same time, maybe the Rams are limping into the playoffs as a 6 seed. And then, does it really count if it's an upset, if they're beating the 1 seed? Or
no,
they
definitely have to be like a 1 or 2 seed for this to come to fruition, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. All right, next one up. All right, next one. Joe Burrow makes it past week 4.
Whoo, that's a tough one. I'm gonna go 3.5 on that. I think this is a year that Joe Burrow stays healthy. That's my hot take. Joe Burrow makes it the entire season without getting injured.
Now, I did say, I don't know, a couple weeks ago that I thought if he was going to get hurt, it was going to be in week 2. So I'm going to put this as a 3 as well. He's only going to do 4 games, okay? But the Texans defense is week 2. But, maybe he's just throwing the ball away. Maybe they're being nice about the way they tackle him. Maybe the offensive line is better. There's a lot of things we don't know yet. But what we do know is he's injury prone. So I'm going to put this as a 3, but there's a lot of variables. So
maybe I'd like to amend my response. I'm going 3 as well. 3.5 is a little too high for that.
All right. Next one. This is what I'm talking about right here from Will Rogers too. Sam Howell is the best quarterback in the league. He just needs a fair shot. That's a 5.
Yeah, that's a big time 5. That's what I'm saying about Stetson Bennett over here. It's all he needs is 1 shot. He's going to take that job,
Dude, and Sam Howell was a starting quarterback at one point for the Commanders, and I feel like he had a good season, and then that's when they brought in Jaden Daniels. I can't even remember how the timeline went, but I remember Sam Howell at one point was like I want to say maybe a 4,000-yard passer in the NFL. I believe
4,000 sounds a little high, but I think he was like more than serviceable when he was playing.
Let me see. 3,946 yards in 2023.
I stand corrected.
But he threw 21 interceptions.
Well, maybe that's why he's not starting. Maybe that's why he hadn't had a fair shot in a while.
Yeah, 2023, he started all 17 games for the Commanders. So, I feel like that's a fair shot.
But if you throw 20 interceptions in a season, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it's time to ask for a trade or, find a new team. Yeah, I heard the Dolphins and Falcons might need a quarterback.
All right, next one up from Sanchez Augustus. Rams won't make the Super Bowl. That's my hot take. I'm just going to say this, and I think I responded to this one and told him you're really living on the edge here. I'm going to give him a 1.5 because, first of all, if you're just picking one team out of 16 to not go to the Super Bowl, the odds are pretty good in your favor. Obviously, they've got the Seahawks, the defending Super Bowl champions, 49ers, the Eagles will be a good team. The NFC North, we've talked about it. They probably won't have to worry about anybody in the NFC South. But, so really they've got 11 other teams they really got to think about. But obviously they're a Super Bowl favorite, but I don't think it's that crazy to go out here and say, well, this team's not making the Super Bowl because there's so many things that could happen. We haven't even started the season.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm giving it a 2.5 only for the reason that they are the Super Bowl favorite. So I'm kind of sitting here thinking like, I kind of agree with you, whereas like it's not that crazy to say, oh, this one team out of 32 is not going to win the Super Bowl. I get that. But then you look at their roster, and we talked about the preview about the NFC West, a week or two ago. I love the Rams, dude. I think they have so much damn talent on that team, and I like the coach, and I like Matt Stafford. I just think it's above a 2 for the fact that they are the Super Bowl favorite.
Fair enough. Next one up, Will Anderson from Isaiah Mathai. Will Anderson will get the most sacks in team history. Now, I'm going to assume he means for the 2026 season. If he does, the most sacks in a season is J.J. Watt at 20.5.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 4.5 here. Love Will Anderson. He was my number 1 player in the AFC South, but yeah, that's 21 sacks in a season would that's awesome. That's incredible. I don't see it quite getting there. Maybe he's up around the 15, 17 mark, which is a great season. But yeah, that gets a 4.5 from me. That's tough.
Yeah. I'll give it a solid 4. I mean, he could get there. We know he's got the talent too. I mean, I feel like he plays a little bit off ball too. He's not as much as a rusher as J.J. Watt is, who was obviously a defensive end. I know he plays edge, but I feel like they do a lot more different stuff with him because he's so versatile, more of a linebacker, played a little more of a linebacker in college type deal. So I think that may be able to hurt him. Now, if Isaiah over here is talking team history, then this is all a moot point. But I'm assuming he's talking about the 2026 season. Next one up is this one. I like this one. Carson Beck will have a more successful career than Fernando Mendoza from Dov Grom in 20.
Well, I know you like this one because you're a Carson Beck guy. So that's understandable.
I'm giving this a solid 2. I don't think it's that hot at all.
Okay. That's actually kind of fair. I'm more around the 3 mark. I was never a big Carson Beck guy, but I also do think part of it was maybe that he didn't have really electric weapons. He had more electric weapons at Miami that probably made him look better than he did at Georgia. But I think he's a serviceable quarterback. Will he have a more successful career overall? It's tough. It's tough to judge because also the teams they play for too. It's like, all right, who are we going to bet on over the next 6 years to be better? The Raiders or the Cardinals? I think they're pretty even keel. So I'm gonna give it a 3. I think.
All right, next one. I like this one too. This one's interesting. From Sun__J Jack. Preseason field goals should count as official stats. It's not like Cam Little or Harrison Butker were playing against third string win. So I don't know if you saw the other day, but Harrison Butker hit a 69-yard field goal in a preseason game. Yeah, very nice. So since J-Jack over here is saying that 69-yard field goal should be an official, it should count. I mean, I don't even know if this really counts as like 1 to 5. Like I don't even know if it's really on the range or anything because it's not like it, could officially happen or anything. But I like this take. I mean, why not if you break an NFL record in the preseason, just be like, that's the official record.
Yeah, I do like his comment about the third string win. That's pretty funny. Yeah. I wish I thought of that myself. That's pretty good. And then he makes a point about the win, it happens. But then again, it's like, okay, what are we going to do? Like, I don't know. I feel like this is not something I get too hot and bothered about, to be honest. So I'm going to put it as like a 3. Like preseason NFL to me is such like a waste of time. It's like Indiana playing, the deaf and the blind, for the first 3 weeks of their season. Doesn't make a difference to me. Doesn't matter to me at all. I guess you play a 9-game season when you're Indiana, but I don't know how we started getting on to Indiana with the NFL preseason, but that's how it goes sometimes.
That's rent free right there. That's rent free.
No doubt.
All right. Now I think this might break the scale. This next one, okay? Just going to let you know this might be the hottest take I saw in the comments. From Jessica QDQP, Bo Nix is going to win the Heisman.
That's a bot right there. That's for sure.
First of all, total bot. Check the profile, total bot. But if that happened this season, first of all,
how is that not a 5?
Now that's more. Like I said, it breaks the scale. He could become now I know we've got NFL players going back to college. I know Bo Nix played like 5 seasons though, and he's actually been having a pretty solid career so far in the NFL. So if Bo Nix went out and won the Heisman, I don't even know how to put that into words.
That's crazy. This is the first time AI made me laugh. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Breaks the scale. Total 5 out of 5 right here. If that happens, color me shocked. I don't know. I might have to go start watching pickleball or something like that.
Oh my God. Bo Nix is going to win the Heisman. That's so great. All right. Last one up. Deshaun Watson will lock up another contract.
5.
That's a 5. I'm with that. He obviously has been in the news. He won the starting quarterback today for the Browns after going out last week in his press conference and saying that he basically doesn't like the fans because they booed him off the field last time, which was just absolutely crazy for him to do.
Ridiculous thing to say.
He's on his last year of his $230 million deal, whichever, one of the worst deals of all time in the NFL. I'm going to assume he's not going to lock. And also, other than his bad play, we obviously all remember what Deshaun Watson's done in this league since he was paid all this money and all the stuff he's gone through. So I agree. That's a 5. I don't think he's locking up another. This might be his last season in the NFL.
I don't think he's good enough. And then just second, nobody really wants that kind of that rain cloud, that thunder cloud hanging over their organization anymore. Mm-hmm. Especially when you come out in the preseason press conferences and start shitting on your own fans. What do we do?
Does not help. Does not help.
No, not at all. It's the Clemson way, though. Had to throw a stray in there. Sorry.
There you go. Knew that was coming. All right. Well, thank you guys for the hot takes, all real and fake ones of you. All right. NFC East. We'll preview. We've got two more divisions. We got this one. We'll talk about the AFC West to finish things out on Wednesday. But the NFC East, Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, and the Commanders. We've got three things to talk about. We're going to go to top five players. We're going to go over under wins, and we're going to give you our division winners. So we'll do the same thing we did last time. Kind of just, I'll say five, you'll say five, and go from there. Now, at number 5, for my top 5 NFC East players, out of respect for Jaden Daniels, I have decided to put him at this spot.
That's a respect play.
That's a respect play. It's a total respect play. I know he was hurt last year, but obviously had a great rookie season. He won the Offensive Rookie of the Year when he was with the Commanders. Obviously had a great season, 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 891 rush yards, a record for rookie quarterbacks. And, it would just be disrespectful to put anyone else here, especially because I'm not trying to get in any type of trouble. But if I was trying to get in any type of trouble, who I would put here is Andrew Thomas, left tackle for the New York Giants. Now, let me just preference by saying this is a stacked division in terms of offensive linemen. Totally. Some of the best plays. Andrew Thomas, only 15 penalties since he's entered the NFL in 2020, which I tried to do some searching. AI did not want to tell me about who all has many penalties, started giving me all these reasons why it couldn't tell me any of that. But anyway, he has less penalties than Lane Johnson in that time, who had about double as many, who we all know Lane Johnson, elite talent, but didn't make my top 5 for that reason. And he's a little too old, so that's why I had to lean Lane Johnson out here. Yep. Also, Laramie Tunsil, great guy, but I'm not advocating for drugs on this show. Okay, so
this is a drug-free podcast.
I had to leave him out of the top 5 for that reason. So Jaden Daniels is number 5, but that's out of respect. If I wanted to be disrespectful, my number 5 would be Andrew Thomas.
5th best player in the NFC East, Jaden Daniels. Guys, I totally agree with you. You got to play the respect card on this one. We don't want to be, shadow banned or sued or anything like that about the name, image, and likeness. So I'm just going to keep it right there, rolling with Jaden Daniels at the number 5 slot.
Again, don't want to be disrespectful to anybody. No. Don't want to get any type of trouble. So it's a respect. We respect Jaden Daniels on this podcast. You could not assume that we did anything else. All right, at the number 4 spot, I went with Dak Prescott. Okay, I have Dak Prescott at number 4. He could be higher, but he's had some injury-plagued seasons. You look at his stats. I'm not gonna say it's half his years, but I mean he's had maybe 3 or 4 seasons where he's got some injuries, had some things happen to him. But obviously, when he is playing a full season, everything's going well. He's had multiple 30 touchdown and 4,000 yard seasons. So obviously, been a really good, productive guy for the Cowboys when he is healthy and playing. I will say I do think the Cowboys, in terms of what they do on offense, has always really been a benefit to him. Obviously, remember early in his career, he had Zeke Elliott, great running game. They've always been stacked with receivers from CeeDee Lamb, obviously Pickens now. They've obviously always had a really good offensive line. So they've always done all the things to help him, but he's always been able to produce very well. So I got Dak Prescott at the 4 spot.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think he's a top 5 player as well. You'll hear him on my list here shortly. The only thing about Dak Prescott that, is the real bugaboo is the playoff success. I mean, that's the only thing. Maybe that's some of the injury stuff, it's kind of carried on postseason, whatever the excuse may be, but I obviously still think he's a really good player. At my 4 spot, though, I have Jalen Carter. Just signed a mega extension. Hopefully that's right. 13 and a half sacks since entering the NFL, which, doesn't really stand out, be like, oh, wow, that guy's really getting after the quarterback. But he's a menace in the interior in terms of the run game, stuffing people up. The best centers and interior linemen, he's stuffing them up, taking on double teams and just filling gaps every single time, every single Sunday. It was a massive part of their Super Bowl run as well, and does I think a lot for the intensity and kind of the aura about that Eagles defense, especially when he's playing at home in front of those Philly fans and they get after it and they get wild. I think it only adds to the atmosphere. You got to admit, it's one of the best atmospheres in the NFL is the Eagles, and I think he feeds off that. He's a really great player.
Yeah, killer instinct for sure. I agree.
No doubt.
And I've got him, and that's where I've got at number 3 is Jalen Carter. You mentioned it, 13 and a half sacks in his 3 seasons. He's had 26 starts. And says technically his first season, he only started 1 game. He played in all of them, but he only technically started. So in 26 starts, 13 and a half sacks, also 25 tackles for loss, 37 quarterback hits. So like you mentioned, really gets to the quarterback, really get against the run game. obviously, I think he just now has became the most highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL. And to do that after just 3 seasons, and especially in the NFL where these rookies get the 5-year contract to start. So after 3 seasons, I mean, they obviously know how good he's going to be. We obviously saw him at Georgia. We know how good he is. So yeah, I have him at number 3.
Yep. Yeah. Makes sense to me here. My third spot, I have Dak Prescott, so we just have those flip-flopped. Everything you said, obviously super productive. He's one of the best fantasy QBs as long as he stays healthy. And I think he's got it. Obviously, they do a lot to help him out in terms of the offensive line and obviously the weapons. And they always have sneaky good running backs too. Obviously, Ezekiel Elliott, but even when the no-name guys are on there because of that O-line, they do pretty well. So he does have a good amount of help. The only thing is like I just mentioned, the playoff success. But I have a feeling they're going to be okay this year, not to spoil it.
Yeah, I do too. At number 2, I've got CeeDee Lamb. See, obviously, he's been first off, he's been 5 straight Pro Bowls because obviously everybody in the NFL gets to go to the Pro Bowl, so that he gets that award. But 3 AP teams in his career. He's had 1,000 yards every year he's been in the league since his rookie year. Obviously, not he was like at 970 or something in his rookie season. I will say I wish I could see a little bit more touchdowns out of him. He's only had 1 double-digit touchdown year, but still in a very elite talent at the wide receiver position. Especially now that A.J. Brown's out of the division. I think he's probably the best in the division easily. And I think it really opens him up now that they got Pickens on the other side, who may, end up not being there, that contract situation. He's on that franchise tag. We'll see what happens with him. But I do think with CeeDee Lamb, when he's one-on-one, he's winning pretty much every competition he goes against. Not many DBs are able to match up against him. And we all know at this point in NFL in 2026, these receivers are the money they get paid, how valuable they are to the team. It's unmatched. I think CeeDee Lamb really brings that to the Dallas Cowboys and the offense and why they've been so good on the offensive side of the ball since he's been there.
Yeah, I think we're going to have the same top 2 players in this division, as I feel like a majority of football fans would. If you're not sure what you're watching. But yeah, CeeDee Lamb, absolute gamer. Yeah, I do hear you on the touchdowns. I would like to see more of those as well, but you can't overlook the production, the receptions, and the yards, and also the what's it called, the yard per catch and rack. Like he's pretty good with that. It doesn't always find the end zone, but he helps his team in other ways. And that's also touchdowns as a receiver is kind of tough too, because like I just said, sometimes you might get down to the 2-3 yard line and then they're just going to run it in from there. So I don't necessarily always see that as like the end all be all, but hard to deny his talent.
Yeah. I'm with you. And we always knew he was going to be great with his hands. I mean, after his draft night, when that girl tried to take his phone and he just ripped it right out. I mean, he has always just been great.
Old girl didn't last long, did she?
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, maybe longer than Will Levis's girlfriend after that whole fiasco.
Low blow, bro. Low blow.
And then number 1, I'm assuming we both have Saquon Barkley. Obviously, he has been in this division his whole career. He was with the Giants before he was with the Eagles. The 2,000-yard 2 years ago speaks for itself. Last year, a little bit of down just because of how good the 2024 season was for him. But still, I think over 1,100 yards was the number. All pro 3 times, and it's just been an absolute workhorse at the running back position. Obviously, it was a 2nd overall pick and has kind of just helped to set the standard for how good the running backs are getting paid nowadays in the NFL. And when you just look across this division in terms of the players, like I said, there's a lot of good offensive linemen in here, but I'm not just going to go out here and say Lane Johnson is number 1 in this division in terms of players, because that's boring. And honestly, I don't know enough about Lane Johnson other than he's a tall guy that can block the left side.
It's Saquon, dude. Like, he's pound for pound probably the best player in the NFL. If not, he's definitely like the 2nd or 3rd best. Sneaky, really good running backs in the NFL right now, like you just mentioned, and everybody's getting paid too. Really good time to be a running back, even though they said the running back was dying. And obviously Saquon is doing things that you've never really seen on a football field before. I mean, the one move that stands out in my head is just the backwards hurdles. Like, dude, what is that? You can't even do that in a video game. So that's what he brings each and every Sunday. He was doing it even on the Giants, who didn't have a good O line. So some running backs you can kind of point to the O line. Okay, like that guy, had like a really, really good O line, but he didn't really do much after. That's not the case with Saquon. He's been doing it his entire career, from high school to college to now.
So now let's go over to over-under wins. All right, these over-under win totals are from our friends over at Fanatic Sportsbook. Cowboys. We'll start with them. 8.5. I've got the over here for the Dallas Cowboys. A couple reasons. The defense was a problem last year for the Cowboys. It was one of the lower rated in the NFL. Obviously traded Michael Parsons. That had a lot to do with it. kind of took a step off. But midseason, they were able to get Quentin Williams, who I think it's going to really be a productive thing. Or a productive player for them this season. They gave him an extension in the offseason. I think Kenny Clark, who they got from that trade with the Packers last season for Micah, I think he's going to be a productive player up front. Rashawn Gary, they got him in the offseason as well. So I think that's a really good defensive line that they've got stacked up over there. The DB room, obviously, they just added Caleb Downs in the draft. We're able to get the Darren Bland to come back. So I really like what that defense has in front of them for this season. I think it'll be improved. I'm not going to go off and say, I don't know if they're going to be one of the best defenses in the league, like top 5 or anything, but I think it will be a much improved defense. And then on the offense side of the ball, as long as George Pickens decides to just hang around for the season and cause no problems, which who knows, that's been a crazy thing. And maybe him and Jerry Jones are going at it secretly, but right now he's on the franchise tag. And if he stays in there with Dak, with CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, really good at the tight end position. Javonte Williams was a sneaky come on running back last year for him. So I really obviously like what they have on offense. That was good. That was not a problem for them at all last year. And they were still last season, they weren't a great team, but they were able to get wins based on their offense. And I think now their defense will be improved. I think they'll be able to get over the 8.5.
Yeah, I'm right there in lockstep with you, Gary. I'm over on the 8.5 all day long, and it's really because of the reasons you laid out, especially on the defensive line. They really bolstered that up with the guys you mentioned. Caleb Downs that they drafted in the first round that guy's going to be an NFL Hall of Famer one day. He's that good, and people have been saying that for a long time. That's not news, but yeah, they've done a good job shoring up some of those rough spots on defense. Maybe it'll take a few weeks for everybody to kind of get gelled together. That always does happen playing as a team and such. But there's nothing to not love on the offensive side of the ball. Like you said, as long as Pickens is in there, he's got a couple targets, so CD isn't getting double teamed all the time. Javonte Williams comes in there as a solid running back. Yeah, as long as Dak stays healthy, they're going. I think they're going to get 10, 11 wins even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. The Giants, 7.5. I've got the under on this one. Look, everyone's all hype about Jackson Dart. I like Jackson Dart. I think it'd be fun to watch him kind of swag it up, keep it going what he was doing last year. But I feel like we're going to need to see a little bit more out of it. Obviously, he's got some early injury concerns. John Harbaugh, the addition of him this offseason. Obviously, we know John Harbaugh's been a good coach for Ravens. They've been really productive, but now he's kind of just starting over with a whole new roster. Going to have to get accustomed to everything. So it's still a little bit of a question mark for me on there, on like how much he can do. And, I think two teams in this division are going to be pretty good. So the running back and wide receiver room is really for me. I mean, Tyrone Tracy, Cam Scatterbo coming off an injury, Najee Harris. I mean, I'm not really sure about how good I feel about it. Obviously, Malik Neighbors coming off an injury as well. So it's this whole thing where it just feels like a lot of, got to wait and see. And so I just don't really know if I'm ready to see the Giants going over 7.5 yet. The defense could be pretty good, obviously, with John Harbaugh. They got Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau over there, so, could still have a really good pass rush. Added Tremaine Edwards from the Bears this offseason. A lot of good additions on that side of the ball, but I think the offense may not be explosive enough. It may not be able to score enough points to keep up against some of the opponents they play. I think, in terms of some of especially in this division, how good some the offenses could be. So I don't think they're going to go over. I've got them at the under 7.5.
I'm kind of right there with you. This one was probably the toughest one out of the 4 for me to really dissect and see where I want to be. Just because, like you mentioned, John Harbaugh, I think he's a good coach. Obviously, the pedigree's great. He's got a Super Bowl, but it might be his last stint in the NFL potentially. And we've seen that happen and play out in the NFL and in college football where a guy was really successful and. I'm thinking about kind of like the Steve Spurriers, like the Urban Meyers, stuff like that to where, it kind of goes downhill quick and you can't really help it. But like you said, the defense is pretty good. I think they're going to have a lot of talent and they're going to be a tough out on that side of the ball. But what happens when that breaks down and, you got Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and Saquon and Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith all, throwing up 35 points a game on you or something like that. I think it's going to get tough. I agree. I don't think they have the firepower to really keep up in this division. So for that reason, I'm going to go under as well, but it's very slightly. I could see them being a 6, 7, or 8 win team somewhere in that range. And yeah, I'm just going to go under. Just see what happens.
All right. Eagles at 10.5. I've got the over for the Eagles here. I think no matter how it looked, especially over the last couple seasons, like, whether it's Jalen Hurts throwing the dink and dunk, boring offense or boring defense, however they play, they obviously have problems. It's obviously going to be a dysfunctional franchise just because it's Philadelphia, but they've been winning games at a huge clip, and I still think they have the talent to do so, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think, okay, so on the defense side of the ball, obviously they got Jalen Carter. They've got Jordan Davis. They've got Nolan Smith. They got the whole 2022 or 2021 Georgia defense. But in terms of the linebacker room with Zach Bond, the DBs with Kenyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, they added Reek Woolen. I mean, they're going to have a really good defense this season. The offensive line, obviously one of the better ones, anchored down by Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, the center. They all are really good players up front. So their lines of scrimmage pretty much go toe-to-toe with anybody in the NFL. I think no A.J. Brown, no problem for them. Obviously, that just seemed like a cancer more than anything. Devontae Smith seems like he's ready to go. They added Hollywood Brown in this offseason. Dallas Goedert's always been a really good tight end in this league. So I think when that all comes together, Jalen Hurts, we'll see how he is. He could be, the 20th best quarterback in this league this year, and they'd still probably find their way to 11 wins, in my opinion. So I got them going over 10.5.
I like that point about Jalen Hurts not being like, the top 5 quarterback or top 7 quarterback or whatever that you need to win the Super Bowl. Obviously, he's done that, so he doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, to be honest. But yeah, he's going to have enough talent across offense, across defense, across special teams, and even the coaching staff too. I think that's going to be able to carry them to success this year. However, I am going to go under just because it's such a high number, and I feel like if and it kind of leans on where I think the division is going to go and what we just talked about with the Cowboys, like I think the Cowboys can be 10, 11, 12 win team. And if I think that, I think, there's a team that's got to, kind of take not a step back, but they're just not going to be as successful maybe as what other people think they're going to be. So for that reason, I'm going to go under, but I do think they get to 10 wins, but I don't think they get that extra one that crosses them over the finish line. And really, it's just who I think is going to win the division this year and who I think is going to be better than them. But they're still going to be a team to beat in the playoffs in the, what's it called, wild card spot. So,
all right. Let's go over to the last team, the Washington Commanders /Redskins /football team. They are sitting at 7.5. I've got the under for them. Look, you look at this roster, it's just not very star-studded. Obviously, Jaden Daniels had the arm injury last year. He, maybe could have came back later in the season, but I just have a lot of question marks because of the way everything was going last season for him. Terry McLaurin's still there. They added Stephon Diggs to the wide receiver room, but that doesn't really get me that excited. Terry McLaurin's kind of getting on the older side. The running back room doesn't really look great. Defensively, that was a problem they were one of the oldest teams in the league last year, and I just feel like it's going to keep showing up. Dan Quinn, we know, had a good start with the Falcons, when he was a coach there. It kind of started declining. I kind of feel like that might happen with him when the Commanders might kind of phase out that whole culture or whatever he has. Back on the offensive side of the ball, David Blau, however you say his name, he's new offensive coordinator, so they don't have Cliff Kingsbury, who I think was an important part of what they were doing with Jaden Daniels. So I find it hard to believe that the Commanders are really going to get it going. I just don't like the roster enough really to say that this team's going to be good. I feel like if you're going to win, 8 to 9 games, there's got to be something you're really good at. And I'm trying to find out where the Washington Commanders are going to be really good on. Is it going to be running the ball? Is it going to be through the air? Are they going to get a lot of sacks? Are they going to, get a lot of takeaways? Like, what's it going to be? And when I look at the roster and I look at the way things are going for them right now, I just find it hard to believe that they're going to be elite at anything. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can't see it right now. So I'm going under 7.5.
Right there with you, honestly. And for me, it goes to the fact about how old they are, especially on defense. Last year, they were the oldest team on defense, average age across all 32 NFL teams. And you could see it. You could see it on Sundays. Like the linebackers were slow. Everybody was, chasing tail the whole game. And I felt like, if you're a Commanders fan, you probably saw enough of that. Like, as a Falcons fan, I'm used to bad quarterback play. I don't like seeing it either. But we got to call it out sometimes. And I just looked it up again. They're the oldest team this year as well. Average age of 28, and next lowest is 26.5. And I don't know what I don't really love what they did to kind of shore up those holes. Obviously, they didn't do a whole lot because they're still old as hell. But I totally agree with you in the fact that, like, what are they going to hang their hat on this year? It must be Jaden Daniels, being prolific, but then you have to rely on Jaden Daniels' health. That dude's kind of like Jackson Dart. Like he just waltzes in there like a deer in traffic and gets smacked about, a couple times a game, it feels like. Maybe that's something you can coach out of them. I don't know. I've never been a QB coach. Wish we had one on this podcast right now. So maybe let us know a little bit. But yeah, I'm going under. It's kind of a similar thing. Somebody's got to lose games in this division. I think it's going to be Commanders and Giants, and it's really just comes down to defense for me. It's not going to. I think it's going to be bottom 5 unit in the league.
Yeah, no, totally with you. All right, and now the division winner, the NFC East division winner for me is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, I went with just two teams to get over their overs. It was the Eagles and the Cowboys, so I felt like it came down to the race between them. When it comes down to it, I just feel like I trust the Eagles more and what they've been able to do. Obviously, they've won the division the last 2 seasons. The defense, I think, is going to be hovering top 5 in this league. The offense, I think, is going to get a breath of fresh air. Obviously, they're running with a new offensive coordinator again this season, so we'll see how that goes. But they're used to doing that. It seems like every other year they have a new offensive coordinator, and every other year, maybe the second every other year, so they go bad and then they get back good at offense. I feel like this is a year to get back good at offense and get something going there. When it comes to the Cowboys, I think they will be a good team as well. I just give the edge to the Eagles a little bit because I like their defense and I think it's more proven. They're a little bit more together. And I just think when it comes down to it, I think those games, the 2 games that we see between the Eagles and Cowboys, will be the important factor. But I think the Eagles are going to be able to pull out more games, probably have a little bit less choke mentality than the Cowboys have, just because that's the culture they have over there in Dallas. So I'm going to go with the Eagles to win the NFC East.
Okay. Yeah, I like the pick. I mean, it's a 2-man race in this division in my eyes. I think the Eagles are a solidly coached team. Obviously, they have some high end talent across the board, a lot of depth. But I like the Cowboys here. I like what they did across the entirety of their team this offseason. We obviously mentioned it a little bit earlier in the pod, but I still love Dak. I love CD. If George Pickens can get in there, I love that. I love the weapons with Javonte Williams now in the backfield. The O-line, I just trust the Cowboys to put together a solid O-line for Dak. I'm not worried about any units on offense for the Cowboys. And on defense, as we mentioned, I think they loaded up. Like we talked about, Rashawn Gary, Quentin Williams, Kenny Clark, all on the interior of that defensive line, which is really going to help them come those games against the Eagles when they have to go up against some of the better O-lines and running backs across the NFL. Drafting Caleb Downs, I already called my shot earlier, NFL Hall of Famer. I think he's so damn good. Was really upset when he didn't go to Georgia back in the day. That was tough. But I love him. They brought in some other younger guys like Jayshon Barham, and who was a Gamecock commit, by the way. I think he was a 2nd or 3rd round pick this year. Devin Moore from Florida, who was a solid player, was looking it up in Gainesville last year. Guy didn't have a penalty and had 5 interceptions. So, I mean, you talk about some disciplined play. That's a guy who might be able to slide in earlier than you think. Also added the other guys in the secondary, Kobe Durant and Jalen Thompson. So I think overall they did a lot to kind of shore up that defense. And I think as the season progresses, they're going to be playing more and more as a team. Hopefully they don't choke. That is something that was definitely on my mind as I was going through this. It's a fair point, fair criticism. I just think the team has too much talent across the board with the depth not to win a division. And I think they get it done.
All right. So, yeah, since 2016, the Cowboys and the Eagles have been the only teams to win this division, except for the Washington football team in 2020 when they were 7-9. So, tough year for NFC East. But it's pretty much been a 2-team race for a pretty long time in this division. So, seems like it might come down to it once again. So, that is the NFC East preview. Almost fully done with the NFL previews. We're just, I believe, 2 weeks away from starting that season. Let's finish it off with some ball trivia. I've got a good one, but I want to go second. So do you have yours ready?
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm ready. All right. For the 2026 college football season, can you give me the oldest and the youngest teams on average? Only FBS teams included.
Oldest and the youngest team. And are they Power 4 schools?
One of them is a Power 4 school. One of them is not.
So is the oldest a Power 4 school?
No. When I was taking a look at this, the schools that you would think are more traditional recruiting powers, those are usually your younger teams because they're still getting all the freshmen and trying to develop, but they're also adding guys from the portal too.
Man, the youngest team. So the youngest is a Power 4 school.
Yes, sir.
Is the youngest Georgia?
It is. Yeah. Georgia. Yeah.
I feel
19.81 years of age.
Which is which is crazy because they're more. They were young last year, but it feels like now they've got a lot more experience. But yeah, you're right. They do recruit a lot and keep a lot of stuff in house instead of bringing in a lot of transfers. So that makes sense. The oldest.
I'd be shocked if you could guess the oldest. I was not expecting this.
Oldest. Group of 5, group of 6 team. Oldest team. Is it James Madison?
No, not James Madison.
Okay.
They do not play in that conference either.
No Sunbelt teams. Is
that your thinking face?
Yeah, I guess so. Dang, dude. Being an F group.
Can I give you a state?
I guess.
Give me one more guess, and then I'll give you a state if you get it wrong.
State feel like narrows it down pretty hard.
State.
Sam Houston State.
Ooh, you got the right state, but not the right team.
UTEP.
Close.
UTSA.
There it is. UTSA. The average player is 21.02 years of age.
UTSA is the oldest team in college football. How about that?
Yeah, I can read. I'll read off the top 5 real quick. UTSA, North Texas, Utah State, Florida Atlantic, and Navy.
See, I thought about Navy for a second, but I thought Navy, no way. I guess it makes sense because they all have to stay. They all have to hang around.
Navy makes sense. Air Force is right there, tied for 9th. I don't see Army. I think Army might be relatively young, which is kind of weird when you think about it. But yeah, the more you know.
How about that? Okay, interesting. All right, here's the question. Can you name me all 11 college football teams that have made the college football playoff more than once?
More than once. Okay.
More than once. There's 11 teams that have made there's 27 total teams that have made the college football playoff. But I need you to name me the 11 that have made it more than once.
Georgia, Alabama, Indiana, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. No, they've only made it once. LSU's not in there. Interesting. Oregon, Clemson, TCU. No, they're just the once. Let's go twice. What am I at right now? 6 or 7?
You're at 7.
Okay, I'm at 7. All right, think. Probably another Big Ten team. Michigan. Michigan was definitely in there. Miami? No. I think they only made it once, huh?
Mm-hmm. Nope. They only made it once.
Interesting. I feel like I'm missing some big ones here. Twice. I gotta. Boise State? Thought that was gonna be a little sneaky one. Shit. I'm definitely blanking.
You got Georgia, Bama, Indiana, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Oregon, Clemson, Michigan. That's what you've got.
I'm gonna go BYU.
No, you're thinking way too small right here.
Thank you. I needed that. Florida State.
No.
Golly, son. I'm going to get roasted. Way too small. Notre Dame's only made it once.
Nope. Notre Dame's one of them. Made it 3 times.
Really? I must be really blanking. Holy mackerel. All right, well, I got it. Got Notre Dame. It's like, I don't even know why I guessed that. Lord. I hate being on the spot like this. Not even going to lie to you. I should just know more ball, probably. Wow. All right, these are all power. I'm assuming power. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all
power 4.
Mm-hmm.
SMU's only once. Because this is not just the extended playoff, right? This is the 14 playoff
since the inception of the playoff.
Yeah. So I got 3 teams left.
Well, actually, you have 9 teams.
So 2 teams left.
You have 2 teams left. You have, which are, on this list are the last 2. So, one's
Baylor?
pretty big, huh?
Nah. Baylor?
They ever made the playoff? One's a huge name.
Huge name. I'm blanking. It's not USC. I know that. Huge name. Midwest? East Coast? South? A&M? No. I'm just throwing out darts right now into the dark. Huge name.
The ones you have so far: Georgia, Bama, Indiana, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Oregon, Clemson, Michigan, Notre Dame. You're missing 2.
Mm-hmm. Missing 2. Ole Miss? I don't know. Tell me, bro. I'm dying over here.
The last 2 are Texas and Washington.
Yeah. That's fair. I forgot. Yeah.
Yep.
What can you do?
They played each other 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, whenever it was. Last year, the 14 played each other.
Yeah. It's late. Your boy had a long weekend. Just not firing all cylinders right now. I'll tell you that much.
Boy. Yep. That was when I was first. At first, I was good thinking I'm gonna ask them to name all 27 teams that have made it before, and I was like, that seems like a little much. Yeah. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for episode 7. Again, last episode we are not talking or previewing or talking about what happened on the weekend. So exciting times. The off season is officially over. at least in the college football world. So come back to us a couple nights from now, and we'll be talking about UNC, NC State, USC, FSU, all the good stuff. Make sure you guys are subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Make sure you guys check out the video versions of the episodes. We get the segments on there as well. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Help us get to 10,000 on Instagram by the end of September. For Jonathan and for the sick Caleb, we'll be back in a couple days. Deep shout out.
Peace.